Welcome back. This is K24 This Morning. On the final leg, of course, as far as our newspaper review is concerned. Talking about the BBI and different factors in there. We'll also look at the Matiang'i factor and then move on to, what the government should be doing as far as flooding is concerned and the systems that should be put in place as far as that also is concerned. But let's talk about this man, Matiang'i. Why is he the man to watch, the man of the moment, the man who seems to wield a lot of power? I think the only other person who comes close to that, he speaks to the president directly. The deputy president can't tell him anything, or so it seems from public. Why that? And then the Star takes it further and says that he might be being groomed for 2022. What's your take on that, Bwana John?
The grooming part, I'm not so sure of. But what I know is, as a president, he needs someone who can run the errands. And I think, to me, the president felt Matiang'i is fit for that job. He's like a foot soldier. Secondly, when you talk about succession, and I think the way Anola said, Ruto is a front runner. And I have two problems with Ruto. He started very well, being ambitious like any other person can be ambitious. But again, he became over-ambitious. And you see,
is there such a thing?
Yes, because you know, when you become over-ambitious, now greed and hatred creeps in. That is very dangerous. Secondly,
are you able to substantiate greed?
Secondly, Ruto has managed to reach out to that common mwananchi. He's able to understand the needs, and that is his secret card. That even if all the Mount Kenya leaders come and coalesce behind the president, I'm able to go to Kirinyaga and be able to take 2 or 3 people who are able to chant Ruto, Ruto, Ruto. Third, we have a president who doesn't know that Kenyans are broke. You see, he's come out and said, why are you broke? And you see, the why can be in 2 phases. You know, when you ask why, it's because I can say, why are you broke? And maybe I've given you money to do everything. It's like when you go to a house and you find your kids not eat, and you left money in the morning, you ask, why have the kids not eaten? Because you expect them to eat. But you can ask, why have they not eaten? Because you've left nothing there for them to eat. So the whys of Uhuru brings in an issue of ignorance, that he, being the president, head of state, doesn't know that Kenyans are broke. But again, it's not about the president. The way Anna will say, it's about the presidency. So even Ruto, again, is in that, is in that way, because Kenyans are broke. But the presidency, don't know that Kenyans are broke.
As we talk about that, I'll come to you, Will Kester, on this. We're looking at gaining prominence of CS Matiang'i. When now we talk about 2022 and him being on a ballot, a big question being asked, is that probably the plan that we are not seeing in all of this noise that we're hearing right now?
I think the first thing we have to notice that there are no, accidents in politics. Everything is very deliberate. There are no surprises. And when there is a surprise, that's when we hear Naivasha, that's when we hear Sagana and those kind of things. So I think when a cow is being fattened, the other cows feel like they've been precluded. So the other cows feel like they're not loved and things like that. So the cow that is being fattened in this particular case is Matiang'i, but to what end?
Right.
Yeah? Is he being fattened to be slaughtered? Right. Or is he being fattened to be taken to an SK show, for example? So I think those are the things we need to ask ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, sorry, the country has also been in a perennial campaign mode. 2018 to 2022. We are not really delivering. Our leaders are not really delivering on their, on their mandates. Besides the politics, they are not really taking, their roles as is in the Constitution and other subsidiary legislation. So I don't know how well Matiang'i is going to perform, given that he is in the limelight, and I don't know whether that is going to work for him or not work for him. We really don't know how he's going to perform. Yeah.
And it's interesting you bring that in, because I'm coming to you also on the aspect that we're looking at a Matiang'i who's also at the forefront when it comes to the delivery of the Big Four. A Big Four who's, the closer we get to 2022, the less the likelihood of it being achieved. She said that there's a cow being fattened, as an example. Is he going to be the scapegoat if this doesn't work out? We put all the blame on Matiang'i and said he didn't deliver in his docket. Is that how this ends as well?
Well, maybe just to pick it up from where she left it, sometimes when you get into something and then you realize, oh, wow, this is actually nice. I could get used to this. It's my personal opinion. I don't think Matiang'i saw this coming, but he got there and he felt like, oh, interesting. I'm getting all the airtime right now, so I could as well just make the most out of it. If people hate me, if people don't hate me, as long as I'm doing my job, because he's also known for doing his job. Right. So whether the cow is being fattened to be taken to the slaughterhouse or the cow is being fattened to be taken to the show, that is something that we can only know. Like, I don't know who insinuated on this table, but somebody insinuated that he's an errand boy for the president. So let's hope that he is doing the errands instead of actually making so much noise, so that at the end of him running his errands and him being known for doing his work, that will actually be able to put out what he's done, whether he's an errand boy or not. Because at the end of the day, I feel like the end will justify the means. Right. Yeah.
And as I say, to whom much is given, much is also required. And a lot has been given to Matiang'i. And when you look at it, there's some people, some citizens feel that if anything has, defeated the government, patia Matiang'i. That's the lingo we have now. Too much on his plate right now?
I don't know why there is the feeling that the cow is being fattened for slaughter or for show. Why is somebody not thinking about a slaughterhouse is being prepared for a cow to be slaughtered? As in, looked at the other way around would be, why are we not looking at a bus being prepared for Matiang'i to be thrown under? You know, we always think about the other way around. Because one thing I know Matiang'i is going to fail is the delivery of the big four.
And that's what I was asking, because he's the face of this particular project in delivery.
Because the way the constitution is actually made, it's going to be very difficult for him to see this work, and already it is a mismanagement of very many years. He cannot write that in by sitting or rather chairing a subcommittee of the cabinet and thinking that would work. But a story is told that a certain lady, could be Anne Waiguru, was working on the list to come up with the Jubilee administration, the cabinet list, a certain lady. So while it wasn't sure if she will end up with the cabinet or not at that particular time, but both William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta proposed the name of Matiang'i. Everybody was coming up with the names, and his name is one of those that came from both sides. Right. From Ruto's end, it was important that he also takes care of the Kisii vote. It's a very important vote for him. For Uhuru, I don't know what inspired his bringing him on board. But suffice it to say that we have had strong men of old. I might not be able to mention the names because they also have got families and grandchildren out there. But ever since the beginning of the time in Kenya's independence, we have had people who had absolute power, like Matiang'i, the strong men of yore. The people in Kano who would whip people who used to, if you see them, you see the fear of God. If they call you, you stand up, even if they weren't there. But we have seen how they have ended. Again, a long time ago, mercenaries used to be people who only used brown. You will talk of people like Memon, fighting against Alexander the Great and others. But of late, mercenaries are people who are learned and they've got doctorate. And that is where Matiang'i falls. Mercenaries always are castrated so that they cannot reproduce. That's why I do not think the Star's headline makes sense that he's being prepared for anything. He has served as a mercenary. And the mercenary's place is normally where, having his neck close to his sword. Right. That's how it ends. So I do not think that there's anyone, knowing too well how we vote, the mobilization philosophy of this country being so much ethnic-based and arranging around. And by the way, the truth is that mobilizing around the ethnicity is not entirely wrong. But if it is the only thing that informs our politics, then it is wrong. So what exactly has Matiang'i done to earn a place, for example, to be groomed? That should be continuity, and then we will ask continuity for what? To what end, and who benefits from that particular end? So I still feel that Matiang'i, being the strong Christian he professes to be, he needs to walk back, and even if he were to do those things, he doesn't need to be so rude the way he is. The person of the deputy president honestly deserves respect. We might not like him for all these, but if you make the deputy president to start looking like the victim here, you are making him a martyr, then you are going to have the kind of reactions you're having from central Kenya. And the rest of the country has not spoken, by the way. It's just central Kenya that is actually coming out. And if Raila is looking at becoming president, he has dropped all the other votes he had. So he's only facing Mount Kenya in the hope that he will get that particular vote. He has dropped Mudavadi, he has dropped Kalonzo, he has dropped Wetangula. If that is how he's going to work, then probably I need to remind him of saying by a guy called Hamatuma. He wrote a very good story called The Case of the Prison Monger. He says that great ambitions make frustrated men, and that our parents, being realists, teach us to hold on to what we have, because every time we reach out to what is higher, we drop what is under our armpit, and that is what Raila is doing.
Of course, we'll wait and see how this plays out as well, because there's a lot of political intrigues we are assured for in this month, even as we get into next year. But I want us to move on because of time and talk about an issue that's really affecting the country across board. And these are the heavy rains that have been experienced across the country. The Mess Department is talking about the fact that we need to brace ourselves, because this week we'll have more heavy downpour. But even as we talk about that, what are the mechanisms or the systems being put in place in order to mitigate what we are seeing, first of all, but also because we know this is cyclic in how it happens, and with climate change, a drought might be around the corner. Do you feel that we are now prepared? Because just looking at the capital city of Nairobi and how we were caught apparently flat-foot, the governor had to rush to Aga Khan Hospital to help drain that particular area. Yet, the Met Department had warned, this is coming, you'll experience heavy rains through the weekend. Is there a breakdown in communication? Where do you get it wrong, Joe, when it comes to these issues?
I think Kenya, we've always gotten our stuff wrong. But before I talk about that, I just want to, Michelle. What Michelle said, that Matiang'i was not prepared for this. Matiang'i was prepared for this. Matiang'i was the minister in charge of internal security. They just concluded election. So he's privy to so much information. And they needed someone whom they can trust. And that's why Matiang'i is here. And to me, I feel Matiang'i is a good student. He must have learned from his predecessors. So it's not that he's been surprised with all this kind of work. Secondly, what Arnold said about Raila, I'm not so sure if maybe he's taking his chances, maybe they're minimal, I don't know. But Raila is also being used by Uhuru Kenyatta to whip the Mount Kenya brigade. This happened just in the just concluded Kibera by-election, because he was able to marshal these big guys, Uhuru and all that kind of Kikuyu group, to come together. So to me, I think is the way I said, we are still in season 1. So let's wait for season 2 very soon. With the floods, I think it is a disaster, and it's not that we didn't know about it. If it were in any developed nation, I think the heads will be rolling now, because we should not be sitting here and we have people in West Pokot dying, in Makueni. In Nairobi, you cannot be able to access maybe your house and maybe just go to work, because where you are, it's flooded all over. So I think there is a problem with not the system, but the ones managing the system. The governor should come out clean and say, this is the policy that I'm putting. Because in the next few months, we're going to go out again. And again, in Turkana, we'll be able again, the Red Cross will be sending a appeal, say, do donation. So I think it's just about the people who are supposed to implement this policy, who are supposed to run the system. And to me, the leaders, I think they are failing on their part.
Right.
Yes.
I'll come to Will Kista on this as well. We're looking at a situation where even as we had the landslides in West Pokot, the governor, Nonyangapo, was talking about the fact that it took quite a while for government assistance to come that particular area. They saw the CS, they saw the deputy president, but they didn't need that. They needed food, they needed medical aid, and that wasn't coming in. The roads were completely unpassable, and you're wondering, okay, this is clearly a high priority issue. Why isn't it getting the prominence or importance it deserves in terms of relief and emergency support?
Well, that was in bad taste for the government not to act as fast. Of course, we understand that the roads were very eroded, so it was not easy to get there. But we have mitigation, mitigation ways where we get relief things to affected people. And I think when it comes to the heavy downpour and the floods, it speaks to unpreparedness. Really, it is not a matter of surprise that it suddenly is raining and, there's a lot of water that, doesn't get really disposed well. It is not a surprise. We are expecting it. We see it every year. So I think in light with calling the youth innovative, energetic and all this, we should have innovation around how to mitigate things like drought. Can we even have, a competition of sorts to get people to give innovative ideas and even ways to mitigate drought? Because even the Chinese that we are trusting to build our own roads are also still facing the same, the same heavy downpour. And you see their roads also have, a lot of water. So can we then have, methods within us in the country to be able to mitigate things like, you know, the heavy downpour. Of course, we can't stop the rains from raining, but there's a way we can get our infrastructure to work for us. We see erection of buildings all over. Are we even taking into consideration how the drainage systems are working? So I think it's more of setting up systems. It is not a surprise. It is more of our preparedness to this, because we really need to get going in terms of setting up systems, and even this speaks to generally politics, setting up systems and not making things around people. So can we have, you know, systems that are going to work for us, for example, next year, because it's still going to happen anyway. Yeah.
We're looking at a situation where, as Lokista put it, Michelle, it's not that we didn't know this was coming. The Met Department warned over and over and over again, yet when it does happen, we're all flat-foot, as if we didn't know it was going to rain, and it was going to rain at such proportions. Is there any other government agency that's supposed to be picking up from this? There was talk of having a National Disaster Management Authority. That hasn't passed yet. Is that what we need in order to coordinate these efforts? Because we've seen this too often, too many times.
You know, what I would say is we don't even need a policy or a draft, because Kenya is not a country that is poor on legislation and policies. On that front, we've got it right. Like, you'd go and look at the disaster management policy in Kenya. We have it. I mean, like, it's a beautiful document. I was looking at it the other day and I was like, wow, this is really nice. But then you wonder, okay, why is it not being implemented? Why is nobody following up to ensure that this is actually done? Because we I don't know, I'll throw this to the news TV stations as well. We don't give this thing the kind of airtime that it deserves, because once it is flooding, we will see it in the news while it is flooding. And then after that, the next time again we're going to see issues about flooding is when it starts flooding again. Right. Where I stay, when it rains, it pours. And the same place where when it rains, it pours, we normally don't have water on a constant supply. You have to keep buying water. So I wonder, like, when it's raining and I drive there, we drive there at the night, I'm like, wow, all this water is going to waste. What is the government doing about this? Right. And then I'm like, why, when the meteorological department issues a notice to people that it's going to rain, what have we done? What are we going to do so that we collect this water? You know, it's funny, these arid and semi-arid countries or states, they never have water issues. Here we have rain a good part of the year, but we still cannot actually harvest this water and then make the most out of it when it's raining, because I'm so certain, I hope you call me back here when it's during the arid areas and you're showing news when the way people are dying, and you'll be like, okay, what is this water being done to? Because it's actually possible to harvest this water and make something out of it so that we'll use it when you don't need it. Is it that there is no infrastructure, or is it that we just don't care? We don't feel like anything that is not governance, anything that is not democratic, anything that is not policy issues. I mean, policy issues with regard to civil and political rights, it does not concern us. Right. Yeah.
That's a big issue right there. Arnold, I'll come to you as well, because we had a couple of dams that should have been built that would take care for, you know, we would be there when we have such instances. The money was spent, the dams weren't put in place, the bushes weren't even cleared.
Actually, the dams are actually in place. You just need to go to the portal and download them. So, I don't know how many times we're going to have a conversation around disaster preparedness in this country, because we have got a National Disaster Management Authority and the EMA. We have got a Disaster Operations Center. We have got a lot of agencies that actually work around that. But every other day, we still have got the same case. We have got the same noise, though it has got two ends to it. Number one is when these disasters show up, it's actually a culmination of both natural and man-made factors. Yeah. If you look at the city, for example, drain water on hard surfaces, it's not like we don't know, it's not like we are stupid enough not to understand that when you have got a concrete jungle, a lot of water that then lands there does not percolate into the soil and ends up forming floods, flash floods and such. There has been a failure on how we actually have organized urban areas, but so far we've not had a lot of problems within the urban settings, other than the small floods we've seen here and there. But in the other places where there's no infrastructure, and you cannot blame it on any man-made activity, we still do not have, our response time is still low. Yeah. Somebody yesterday, I don't know how true that is, but you might need to follow through, says that the rescue in Thika took 3 days to organize. to operate. Wherever we saw, so it looked like we were watching the moon landing. Very choreographed, though I'm not a conspiracy believer, but it looked like it's very choreographed. Somebody actually said somewhere, and somebody I respect said, this thing has been, to just take that one man, it took like 3 days. We have got 5 choppers. We spend a lot of money on them. Some of them have been dropping from the sky like stones. As we just get everything wrong on where things that matter, on things that do really matter. We still have got people going without food. And we are doing a lot of politics. You remember Murkomen and Matiang'i again bickering on social media that Matiang'i did not want to be with the deputy president in Pokot at the same time. So he got wind of him going there, and then he went to Eldoret, took a selfie, did a press conference, and came back to Nairobi. The government has not gone back there till today. And then the people who are on the ground with the supplies and everything ran away. So we do a lot of politics around issues that matter, and human lives really should matter to everyone. The lives in Pokot matter just as the lives in Nairobi do matter. I do not know how, I even don't know exactly how to speak about this, because over my time in writing and speaking in such like fora, I've actually really spoken about this. I know people who've been pushing through the policies and everything else. We still set aside a budget. But if you ever took time and just looked at how much money is put on means and facilities to take care of such like eventualities in the budget every year. I don't want to mention a certain agency that I keep on mentioning sometimes, how they were looking for drones. 3 billion showing up every year to buy drones that can actually even feel movements in the ground. It has shown up for the last 3 years. But still, we are found wanting. We are found naked. We are found totally unprepared. And I think it reflects badly on leadership, knowing too well that these things show up. Literally annually. Now that this has happened, I know it will be giving some people within the procurement channels an idea. And they will again procure very funny stuff. And that will be the end of it. And again, next year, we will leave the whole work to be done by Red Cross. It's one sector we have really outsourced. Why then don't we just give that money to Red Cross annually and have them do the work?
And it's a story that you can get, of course, the pictures on each of the front pages of the daily this morning, capturing what the weekend was in terms of what the weather brought on the country in various parts. As we come to a close, of course, I'd want our parting shots as we begin this week proper. I'll start with you. Okay, so what's your parting shot this morning from what you've seen from the news and what you're expecting as we move forward?
My parting shot would be, we have a president that loves to be loved. So having a president that loves to be loved means he would not want to be in the forefront of receiving the hate. So I think Matiang'i should be a bit more careful in terms of being in the forefront receiving the love. He'll also receive backlash in the same breath.
Right. Okay. Of course, to watch what comes Matiang'i's way as far as that's concerned. Asante, what about you, John?
Thank you. I think to me, we need to be, as citizens, we need to be very careful and be able to discern this BBI report. My sympathy maybe goes to the Deputy President. As I said earlier, he needs now to go back and see what he's supposed to do, because this is like, as I said, the boyfriend has seen other girls. And when the bombers event was going on, the president was very happy because there are so many girls out there. And when I say in quote, the main chick was very sad there because the president is dancing with other girls. So he needs to be very careful on how he's going to engage the president moving forward. Third, I think we need to be careful on the BBI report, because is it going to address Article 10 of the Constitution? Is Article 19 entrenched there? Are we going to address the Agenda 4 of the National Accord? I think these are the things that we need to sit down and see. If all these are factored in, I think the BBI report will be good. But the referendum or maybe the Bunge thing, I don't know. We are still in season 1. 2-3 months, we'll be able we'll be able to know what is happening.
Okay. What about you, Michelle? Your parting shot this
Well,
morning?
for me, my parting shot would be cutting across both the BBI topical issues that we've discussed and still on disaster management and preparedness. What I would say is, and maybe my challenge that I would put out there is, people need to know. My special plate is definitely to young people, but generally people need to know that Kenya is not a country that is poor on legislation and policies. I don't think, in my personal opinion, I don't think we need to have constitutional amendments. And I don't think, like Arnold insinuated, we need more procurement opportunities for people working in the government so that we can try and make things work. We can do with what we already have and actually make sure that it works for us, because it is our right to ask. There is the disaster management policy in Kenya. There's the disaster management authority. What are they doing? It is my right to actually go and ask, what are you doing? And if you're not doing what you're expected to be doing, it is my right for me to tell you that you're not doing what you're expected to do, so either deliver or we take another action against you. So that is what my parting shot would be with regard to both the BBI and topical issues. We are not a country that is poor on legislation and policies. We just need good implementation, and we need proper monitoring and evaluation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Asante sana. Arnold, your parting shot this morning.
I would just like to tell people that if BBI is going to be realized, we will need both parliamentary and popular initiative, because even if you're going to have a popular initiative, it will have to go to parliament. But what is important is that parliament should decline any invitation to make this issue about themselves. Let them do, when called upon, what they're supposed to do, because even if we're going to do a referendum at some point, especially on functions that pertain to the functions of parliament, you have to go the popular way. Right. So I will still want to say this. We know where it is. Parliamentarians out there, please decline the invitation and the temptation to try make this your own, kindly. The second thing to part of is that to Kenyans, it is important to actually note that politics is not a love affair. It's not a marriage. Please do not approach politics and do not deal it from a place of affection and love and trying to be very clingy and attached to it. And as I speak to that, I actually have got both the Raila supporters and Uhuru supporters. That these people might fall out. Then you bring your feelings and makasiriko to the streets and elsewhere. Please, this is politics. You approach it with an open mind. And finally, Kenya is where it is, not because of any particular individual out there, but because of us as a people waking up every morning and making it count. So please, as you start this week, make it count, bring it to bear, for yourself, for God, and the country. Okay,
we leave it at that, of course. For God and country, from Arnold Maliba, public policy analyst. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Michelle Alwoch, governance specialist. Thanks again for making time, and welcome to the show for the first time. For the first time as well, John Opuko, Sandy Sana, for making time this morning, a governance expert, and Wilkista Aduma, political analyst. Thank you so much for making time this morning and sharing your views as far as the news is concerned today. We'd like your views as well. Keep them coming in at K24TV on all the social media platforms. You can also SMS us on 21222. We're back after the break as we get interactive. Good morning.